Land flipping, it's a very simple business model. Like I like to say, it's simple. It's not easy. I know a lot of people say things like that to other things. It's very true in land flipping. You can learn the process any number of ways. Videos on YouTube. I've written books on the process. They go to a certain level. Where people struggle is with the decision making. Is this market going to work? Is it not going to work? Is my offer right or is it not? If I buy this property, am I going to get in trouble? All those things, the reassurance that comes from my experience over hundreds of deals. And this is why we started our coaching program, by the way. When we had people asking us if we could help get them started in land flipping.
Quick favor before we jump in. It always surprised me that a large percentage of people who listen to this show regularly haven't yet subscribed. If you're a commercial real estate operator, investor, or builder who values conversations like this around deals, capital, and technology, please take 2 seconds and hit subscribe. It's a simple, free way to support the show. My commitment to you is that my team and I will continue bringing you higher level operators, stronger conversations, and real execution level insights every single week. Thank you. I truly appreciate it. Welcome back to the AI Edge podcast, where we sit down with founders, operators, and investors who are actually in the arena building real businesses. We unpack how they're scaling, where operations are getting messy, and how they're using technology to stay ahead. Today, I'm joined by Mike, co-founder of Flipping Dirt. Mike and his wife built a 7-figure national land investing business by keeping operations incredibly lean while also growing a coaching company, helping others build similar businesses. What fascinates me the most isn't the land business, it's how intentionally Mike has designed systems that let a small team compete in a very high level. Mike, welcome to the show.
Yes, thanks for having me on. I'm excited to talk real estate, technology, life, all the things. So yeah, I'm excited to dig in with you.
I love it. Let's start right here. So when somebody asks you, what do you do? How do you usually explain that, Mike?
Well, I'm an entrepreneur, which I never thought was going to be my path, but I'm a converted corporate warrior. I graduated from university many, many years ago, spent over 20 years in the corporate grind, working, up the ladder, kind of following the path that I thought was the way to go. And yeah, in 2016, my wife and I were both laid off and we pivoted into entrepreneurship and specifically into real estate. Like you mentioned, vacant land is our niche, but we do a few other things, asset classes within real estate. But as you mentioned, also some coaching now to as a way to give back. So yeah, founder, entrepreneur, multi-business owner, and a freedom warrior trying to carve a lane that allows me to do the things I love to do.
I love it. You describe yourself as someone who has spent decades running operations before becoming an entrepreneur. Looking back now, what parts of the corporate actually made you a better founder?
Yeah, so I had the fortune to work for some top Fortune 50 companies, if not the Fortune 5 companies. I've worked with only a handful, but like Motorola, a tech giant of, decades past when they were, the biggest tech company, into Nokia mobile phones when Nokia was king of mobile phones in the US, but also in the world. And then finished my career at Microsoft where I was running supply chains for their hardware products, PCs, Xboxes, all kinds of accessories. And for me, the benefit that came from those big companies was they make a lot of investment in their people. And so I got great education on soft skills, leadership, how to, really thrive, but also the hard skills of operations, supply chain, which is basically running a business. And so all of the aspects of managing a team, managing a profit and loss statement, a P&L, cost center, all the things that came along. And I credit all of that with helping us achieve our success as business owners and entrepreneurs because, you touched on a lot of things that I love there, running lean operations, cost mindedness, scale and growth. And there's never been a better time in history to do all the things as a business owner. The affordability of tools coming down, the capability of tools expanding, All of those things are really at our fingertips now. And so, yeah, all those things for me laid a great foundation. And many times I think, gosh, I wish I would have started as an entrepreneur earlier. Or I wish I would have gotten into real estate earlier, all the things. But it all prepared me to be more effective as I am today. And so that's really the big takeaways and the benefit and the things that I'm grateful for my corporate career.
Those are the habits that you brought with you. Now, which ones did you have to unlearn?
Well, yeah, that's a great question. Not so, there are things that I disliked about corporate, which was a lot of the bureaucracy and politics, and you're dealing with large organizations. Especially, those are some of the largest organizations out there in terms of companies. They move slower. They make decisions. It takes a long time to get things through and approved. And so, coming more nimble was something that I had to embrace as an entrepreneur. And very closely related to that, my biggest personal development challenge was in how I framed testing and what can be perceived as failure, right? So, like, as an entrepreneur, you're out there testing ideas, testing concepts, and you're getting data and feedback and iterating and fine tuning and moving. In the corporate world, there's a little bit of that, but you make mistakes. And if you make them too often, you're not working for the company for very long. And so, that's been the most fundamental shift for me going from a corporate employee to a business owner and an entrepreneur.
I love it. Let's talk a little bit about flipping dirt. So, or flipping land, all right? Land flipping. So, what surprised you the most once you actually got into land investing?
When we entered, it was 2016. We were out of a job. Both my wife and I laid off same day, different companies. And for us, that was our only income. So income stopped. And our knee jerk reaction was really to get back into the workforce, put the resumes out there, start interviewing, get the salary going again. Fortunately, we took a pause and we were able to reflect and think about what did we want our life to look like? What kind of life did we want to live on a day to day? And for us, it was a lot of spending time together, being able to own our calendar and decide when and what we wanted to do, making choices about where we wanted to live, all of those things. And none of them pushed us back into the corporate world. So I had on podcasts just like this heard about other people that were doing land flipping and telling their story. And it really piqued a curiosity in me. I was working at the time, and so I didn't go too far down that rabbit hole. I was kind of investing all of my time in the company. But when that layoff came and we took the moment to pause, we decided that maybe we could take a deeper look at it. And so we started educating ourselves. What is this about? We dug into toolkits. We went to a boot camp and met other people that were doing it. And all of that just took us a little further down the path of thinking this could be something that would work for us. But to your question, we were super skeptical. Like, could simply buying and selling vacant land replace our salaries? Could it allow us to live a life we wanted to live? And so, the most surprising element was really just the effectiveness of it with the simplicity of it, because it is literally just buying property and reselling it. We're not making improvements to the land. We're not rezoning it or doing anything. We're just buying it at a discount and then reselling it at market value or even a little bit less than market value because we get it such a discount. So that for me is just the business model itself was a bit unbelievable until we got in and did a few deals, and we started small. We dipped our toes in the water and we proved the process and understood it before we started scaling over time. But yeah, every client we work with today has the same experience. They want to start a little conservatively and make sure this is going to work. And that's the right way to go about it in most people's cases. And yeah, there's many other aspects, obviously, once we get into processes and different things like that. But really, the whole business model itself was the most surprising for me.
At what point did you realize this is a real business?
We were probably 12 months in, I would say, maybe even 6. So we started right at the beginning of 2017. Like I mentioned, we decided to go all in. And so we seeded our business with some capital to start with. We gave ourselves a 12-month runway of let's just see if this can work. We'll give ourselves 12 months and assess whether we think we need to pivot or do something different. We found a coach and a mentor to help us go faster. We knew this was something we wanted to grow into a business. We wanted to make fewer mistakes. And so all of that, we started right at 2017. First few weeks were heavy learning. The acquisition side of the business, buying inventory or finding inventory, that came pretty quickly. Like we learned, we got offers, we got potential. For my wife and I, neither one of us are really sales and marketing focused, and so that took a bit of time for us. We were nervous, we were awkward, we were, interacting with potential buyers, and I'm sure they felt our nervousness, and so it took us a few extra months to crack the first sale or two. And so right about the 6-month mark, we had gone full cycle, and we were off to the races after that. And so, we set business milestones. We were running off of savings when we started. And so first thing is get to black, where we're not dipping into savings. The next step was, can we replace our salary? And then we've just grown every year since then. But within that 6 to 12 month, we definitely had a strong signal that this could make more than enough money to not only replace what we were earning as corporate executives, not small salaries, into a full-time job.
Most people assume that land investing is about buying cheap property. Where's the real competitive advantage?
Well, it's a simple business. It's not easy. You can buy cheap properties. Many clients come to us and they have small budgets. And it's always a shock to people that you can buy properties for hundreds or a few $1,000s. Just this morning, one of our clients emailed me that he got his first deal. Lady's open to sell her property for $1,400. That's kind of right in his buy box, as we call it. He wants to prove the model out and grow over that time. It can be done. It requires you to run really, really lean operations, as you can imagine, because your margins on a net basis, you can triple your money on a deal like that, but you're only talking a few $1,000s. And so you have to be mindful about how you're spending things. The real strategic advantage in this business is understanding which market has the right priced properties, but also good deal flow. Like you want properties to be moving in a market so that you can flip it. And so the faster that happens, the more you're able to amplify your capital and move on to bigger and better deals. And sometimes that requires some testing of the market. And this is where I've had to relax a little bit and go in and test. But we've spent years in particular markets just working deep and going in. But it's really about buying right, and that encompasses not only price, as you mentioned, but a little bit the speed with which you can flip a property. And that comes down to understanding, our property's moving. Do I get it at the right price such that I can then price it on my exit? There's also a few different ways to sell properties. You can sell it outright for cash. My wife and I personally owner finance a lot of our sales. And so we're the bank in that situation. We can command a little bit of a premium, but we reach out to a lot more buyers because not everybody can afford to buy a $35,000 property or a $50,000 property, and they monthly payments really opens up the potential for people that can do that. So a few fundamental things that go in there, but the real strategic advantage is just buying right, and that's a broad way to say a few of the variables that I mentioned.
If two people have the same mailing list, why does one succeed and the other one fail?
Yeah, it's a great question. As you can imagine, your email inbox and your physical mailbox, there's a lot of things that come in there that maybe escape your attention, or you're just not receptive at that moment. And so, timing, in addition to making the right offer, and this is something we spend a lot of time with clients on, and we do personally, is finding that window of offer that gets you enough accepted offers to make a good return on your expense on your investment. And so, we're looking at 35 to 45 of market value typically, plus or minus. It depends on the market, but it's a lot of timing. We had a client last year that started his business, and my wife and I were working in a particular market in Arizona, and we had sent out offers to a lot of owners. And He wanted to go into the same market, which is not a problem. We're kind of the opinion that there's enough out there for everybody. Well, he sent offers into the exact same market. He offered $4,000 more than my wife and I had on our previous offer, and he won the deal just because the guy was ready at that moment. He needed to sell his property, and this offer came into his hands at the time. And so, time plays, and that's why it's good to go back and you can even that's how we've spent years in particular markets, as you can just remail every 3, 4, 5, 6 months. And we've had people reach out to us that say, "Hey, I got your letter years ago. I held on to it. Now's the time. I need to sell." And so it's a lot of timing, but it's also, I mean, if somebody owns $100,000 property and you offer them a dollar, they're likely not going to get back to you other than to yell at you. And so there is a band of pricing that's gonna get enough attention, but still net you really good profits. And so that's a lot of the time is kind of spent experimenting and dialing that in. And that's where, operative dashboards come into play where you can see what is my response rate on a percentage basis? What's my deal close rate? And you can fine tune your pricing in such a way. And so that's where a little bit of feedback over time helps dial things in.
Let's talk about your business model a little bit. What percentage of growth comes from better buying, better selling, better systems?
I just kind of touched on the better buying aspect of things, and that's how you can fine tune over time. Systems, I would say they're definitely important. We started old school. Like we sat around the dining room table and we were printing letters, folding them, stuffing them into envelopes, taking them to the mailbox. That was 10 years ago. In the span of that 10 years, land is still a bit of an underserved niche in real estate, but it's growing. And there's a lot of land specific vendors that are out there designing systems, coming up with solutions, different services. And so it really is a great time to be getting into land because you can benefit from a lot of the systems that are there. I would say it's not so essential for growth, but we leverage AI in the business every day. We do research on markets. We try to hone in on submarkets. We look for data analytics. And so if we get, let's say, a year's worth of sold data from a particular market or submarket, AI can in a very expert way, find trends, find patterns, look at, different elements of things. And so you can really one, just gain a pure competitive edge, but you can also gain a speed edge in doing things like that. And then there's the obvious just business systems that help you in terms of CRMs, different we leverage, voicemail and different elements. Those are kind of your tried and true, just broad across all general business elements. But you can still run this business, and we start out most of our clients, honestly, as lean as we can because a lot of people will try to pitch you, you need this CRM, you need this mail service, you need this tracking tool, you need this whatever. I mean, before you know it, you're spending thousands of dollars a month just in overhead, and you haven't even got your business off the ground. And so there's ways to just still kind of get it going before you do too many expenses there. But you can still grow very easily in a low tech environment, but systems will certainly let you scale quickly if used appropriately.
Mike, what's harder today, finding deals or moving the inventory?
Well, the last, I would say, 12 months to 18 months, moving inventory has been more of a challenge. I can get more deals than anybody can handle almost. The sales cycle has been a little slower. Last year was really slow. I think the economy itself froze a lot of people. It was uncertain what's going to happen. I think that those factors are all still there to a large degree, right? AI is coming in. People don't know about their job security. Layoffs are happening. Inflation's there. All these things. But I think people have become a little more comfortable or normalized with it. And so we see sales happening a lot more frequently this year. Still a bit slower than probably 2 years ago. But yeah, I mean, the flip side of that is there's a lot of motivated sellers out there that are wanting to have cash in hand and willing to take a haircut or a discount on their property to offload it. And so inventory acquisition is really, really healthy. It's just being creative on the sales side and being a little patient and disciplined.
Amazing. Let's talk about your operations a little bit. So you've intentionally kept this business lean. Was that by design or did it evolve naturally?
Well, I'm sure there's a little bit of both, but very intentionally, just with my operations background, Lean Six Sigma is a skill that I've leaned into in terms of running things lean. I'm just reluctant to spend for the sake of spending, probably a bit to a fault. But at the same time, my wife and I are real estate professional status, which some people may be familiar with, but really, essentially, you have to work a certain amount of hours per week actively in real estate and earn a certain percentage of your income, like 51%, coming from real estate sources. And you can enjoy tax benefits because of that. And so we're full time real estate, but we keep our hands in the business to a degree to keep things going. There's also, you mentioned strategic advantages, market selection, and offer pricing. It's something I like to be actively involved in. Also, with the advent of systems, you can utilize a lot more systems than you have to people. When we started, there was a big push for people to use virtual assistants, right? To grab names for you, to price properties, to send out offers, to field incoming calls. And all of that stuff can be automated today at a much lower cost, even than a low cost virtual assistant. And so, we've just never really had the need to go expend a lot of capital on personnel or heavy systems or anything like that. It keeps things a lot simpler, fewer moving parts, fewer touch points. And part of this is, when I started with Motorola, it was in the 90s. TQM, or total quality management, was the mindset of the day, at least in manufacturing. And a lot of these philosophies were just drilled into me in that way. And so I carry them really as part of my DNA. But one of the mantras, I don't know if it comes from that or whatever, but it's essentially eliminate, automate, and then delegate, right? So in that order, like if you can eliminate a process step, then eliminate it. And then if not, automate it so that it's more advantageous, and then delegate it if you need to. And so there's just this mindset that I carry with me in terms of running businesses and processes. And I still like flow charts and swim lanes, and trying to figure out where things can be moved or optimized or things like that. It's just things that I like to lean into.
I love it. So it's your wife and yourself, right, Mike?
Primarily, yeah, we're co-founders. Yeah.
If your wife disappeared for 2 weeks, what would stop?
Everything. She's but on our land business, that's not a too unrealistic of a statement. So when we started our business, it wasn't flipping dirt is our coaching business. We have a different business name for our real estate enterprises. But when we started our land flipping business, we were obviously both very much invested in the business, but we naturally found segmentation such that I was doing a lot of the market research, a lot of the data analytics, the heavy kind of trend analysis and thinking. And she took on a lot of the client facing activities, dealing with potential property sellers, property owners, working marketing and sales. And so we kind of ran our business in this two pronged approach. When we started our coaching business a couple years ago, I shifted most of my focus into growing and establishing the coaching business, and she really runs the land business. And so I'm still involved in we were having a conversation yesterday about market selection. We try to test new markets every 2 or 3 months. And so, we get together and we talk about the benefits of certain markets and others. We obviously collaborate on deals when they come to a degree. Are we comfortable with what level of discounts? And so there's a lot of collaboration, but honestly, she runs the day to day in the land business. And if I've thought about this often, but if she disappeared, yeah, it would be painful.
What if you disappeared for 2 weeks, Mike? What would stop?
It's probably very similar in that way. Like she could easily keep up with the land portion of things, but the coaching side of things, she would have to lean in a little more heavily. Yeah, it's the nature of solopreneurs and founder led businesses.
What's still completely dependent on Mike?
Oh gosh, a lot of the client facing activities on our coaching business, I do coaching calls. I do whether it's in a group setting or a one-on-one setting. I love hands-on coaching. It's one of the key aspects that I really really enjoy doing, and it's why I do coaching. I don't do a lot of it for that reason because I put time into the clients that we do have and that we do accept. And so that's probably the biggest thing. Most things are automated to a degree that they're going to keep going. Decision making, obviously, we try to keep, like I mentioned, the strategic elements of this market or that market. Where are we going to set our offer prices? But honestly, all of that is even systemizable with a little bit of nurturing and thinking through the inputs and just setting up the framework. I mean, we could easily hand off market selection. We could give the criteria and say that this is our, these are no goes, these are green lights, these are parameters. It can all be done. It's just a question of, return on investment, like everything.
Mike, where do you still trust yourself more than your systems?
It's really in those strategic elements. Like I market selection is one. Setting offer prices is another. That, interestingly, I have a client that just started with us a few weeks back, and he's actually somebody that I've known for when I was working 20 years ago. We worked together and we kind of reconnected, and he wants to learn landscaping. His statistical capabilities are so beyond me. Like he's making, box plot analyses and doing all this stuff. And I just had to tell him the other day, I was like, hey, this is all great. At some point, you kind of got to step back and trust your intuition a little bit, or do things make common sense. And so that's where, like, even with AI today, I see it so heavily utilized in content creation, systems management. And my personal experience with it is you can get it, like, it's also a return on investment. It needs a lot of context to be able to do the things that I do. I'm in some coaching programs myself, and they have virtual brains. You can go and get the coach's access 24/7 to the coach, ask a question, and it'll give you, okay, it's pretty good, but it's not the same. I mean, I've had coaches where they go, oh, I wouldn't have said that, but whatever. And so, I think the human aspect of things, even statistical analyses, I do this all the time with AI. It'll run some statistical analysis and it'll output a conclusion. And because it doesn't have the full context that I have, I can say, yeah, but you have to also consider that just because you don't see data in this doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Or there could be a double count, there's some certain situations in land where, the AI will be like, oh yeah, you're right. So there's still this management aspect of things that you need some common sense. In my opinion, there's probably a lot of people that fully relinquish and do okay. Like, maybe it's good enough. I don't know. I'm a bit of a control freak, if you will, and so I just like to maintain a little tighter control on before money gets spent out of the account.
I actually had a meeting today with another potential guest on the show, and he's actually developing software to help to make sure some of the LLMs, long language models, are actually more accurate. He mentioned the fact that the data that he's pulled over millions and millions of data sets, 66% of the time is wrong.
Yeah,
So,
that wouldn't surprise me, honestly.
'cause if you would ask it one particular question and you ask that same question again, you're going to get a different answer, right?
Yeah.
So, this doesn't make a lot of difference between you and I. I mean, if we have to like just ask a simple question, but if you're like Nike, right? Or if you're like a large, I mean, that data really makes a lot of difference. So talking about scaling and, what we are just talked about, what decisions are you unwilling to delegate, right? So you mentioned the fact that eliminate, right? Automate and delegate. What decisions are you unwilling to delegate?
I'll answer that in two tiers. And so I would say, theoretically, there is no limit to what I would delegate in certain environments. Today, there are, things that I am uncomfortable delegating, and that's mostly money related topics. I've mentioned picking markets. That's something I like to decide on. Do I want to invest in making offers in a certain market or not? Intake of deals. I have a colleague who has been working with AI on an end-to-end acquisition engine where he has set up parameters from making offers, text messages, like sending out SMS offers to people, if they meet a certain criteria that he predefines, right? I'm going to make an offer of $20,000 on a $40,000 property. If somebody negotiates up to 45 or 6, or whatever the number is, you can take it. It'll go all the way through to title company with documents and signings and things like that. I think that can be done, but it's more of a one-off. And even in my personal business, market A, I might have margins at a certain level versus margin B, I have different. And so there's a lot of, nuance that I'm sure could be programmed in given the thought processes and programming to get it done. But to your point, am I confident that they're going to be executed exactly that way? If it's a human, okay, maybe there's a different thing. If it's an AI, another scenario. But things around that are where I'm just more reluctant today to hand over the reins to somebody. Like I said, if it's a person and you have a little more communication and tightness of connection, it may be a bit more doable. Those are the top things that come to mind. But honestly, theoretically, I could envision our land flipping business being totally outsourced. Contrarily, I could also envision our coaching enterprise in the near future being 100% hands off, right? From lead generation to sales conversations. And then once people enter our coaching program, there's, other than my experience and my thought processes, there's no reason that it needs to be physically me. I mean, there's other programs out there, land flipping or others, where the program may be branded under a person, but when you enter the coaching relationship, you're not dealing with that person, you're dealing with other coaches. And so that's just a different level for me personally. Like I said, I enjoy coaching. I enjoy personally helping people. And so I haven't had the desire to run my coaching business at that level. I talked to a young man last week, or yeah, I think it was last week, and he was like, "Oh wow, I wasn't expecting you to be personally on the phone call." When we talk, I'm like, "Well, you're going to coach with me, and so it's as much about me evaluating you as it is you me. And I could have a salesperson do it, but it just kind of takes away." And so there's some things that, for now at least, I'm holding on to, but I'm not closed-minded enough that, I don't see that changing at some point, down the road.
Let's stay on that topic. What's the hardest part about trusting somebody with your reputation?
Yeah, that's just it, right? It's your reputation. You don't know, exactly what people or a system are gonna say. It's your brand. It's a comfort level with control, and have a I like to think I have a high character, and so I want to be the person that's delivering certain things. Does that limit me? Yes, absolutely, right? I mean, I am not the world's best salesperson. I'm probably not even the average salesperson. Like, I probably lose more sales because I'm just not a salesperson than if I had a salesperson working my leads and converting them. It's a trade-off I'm willing to accept for now just because of that. But yeah, that's a tricky thing with that. But it's the case with any company. When I worked in companies, there were strong initiatives on corporate culture, company culture. There was messaging, there was branding, there was education, there were do's and don'ts, right? Don't do this with vendors, don't say that. And so that structure, even though that structure can be in place, it's up to people to actually follow the rules and the structure. And so that just comes with whether it's a company or a personal brand.
Love it. Let's talk about your coaching business now. You now coach operators. What's the biggest misconception new land investors have?
I think there's some expectations in our niche specifically, and I'm sure I am guilty of probably setting some of these expectations because when you're marketing and promoting, you're typically talking about your best cases and your ideal situations. And so, I would say in land, the money and the percentage returns that you can make, there's almost no, at least in real estate, there's almost no comparison. Like, you can double and triple your money in a very short amount of time on a per investment deal, right? We made a $10,000 investment and you're getting 24,000, and maybe it takes a few weeks. The problem with that is past performance is not a guarantee of future performance, right? Like they say in the in the investment commercials or whatever, past history does not guarantee future success. It's a sales cycle and it's dependent on a market and a buyer and reaching that buyer. And so, there can be the cases. There are, as with any investment, right? There are downside. My wife and I invested in several multifamily deals. A couple of them went under. We lost all of our investment because they just didn't perform. The bank took them back, and that's it. And so, did we know that going in? Probably not as clearly as we could have, because it just didn't really come. Nobody preaches those things. Hey, guess what? You can lose all your money if you make this investment, and so I would say those kind of expectations are probably the most common, is just a timing, like, "Oh, I'm gonna come in." There's a learning phase. You come in, you're gonna have to learn the processes. It takes time. It takes, we work with people on a weekly basis and we step them through fairly quickly, but it's still a learning process and execution. And so that, the time framing is most likely the most common misconception coming in, or an expectation that's maybe that. And so, we work to set those appropriately up front. You don't want disgruntled people coming in, and in life in general, it's all centered around expectations. If you have a misconception about what's going to happen, you're set up for disappointment no matter what happens if it doesn't hit that. So,
Coach Mike, what's the advice you find yourself repeating every single week?
you know, on the coaching side of things, the most difficult aspects, like the land flipping, It's it's a very simple business model. Like, I like to say, it's simple, it's not easy. I know a lot of people say things like that to other things. It's very true in land flipping. You can learn the process any number of ways. Videos on YouTube. I've written books on the process. They go to a certain level. Where people struggle is with the decision making. Is this market going to work? Is it not going to work? Is my offer right, or is it not? If I buy this property, am I going to get in trouble? All those things, the reassurance that comes from my experience over hundreds of deals. And this is why we started our coaching program, by the way. When we had people asking us if we could help get them started in land flipping. There are several coaching programs out there, from old to new, from big to small. You can find a different coaching program out there. When we went through our program, as I mentioned earlier, we were corporate employees transitioning into this entrepreneurial world. And for us, that was our biggest obstacle. It was, how do we structure our days? How do we push through resistance? How do we not get dragged down into negative thinking? More softer skills. And so that's what we try to bring into our coaching program, is helping people through all that stuff. Like, hey, it's okay, it's going to work, or if it doesn't, it's not the end of the world, or whatever, right? It's just make these decisions and keep going. And so it's just that I would say is the value of a good coach, is being able to keep you moving, just taking forward motion, keeping one step going in front of the other, keep the ball moving, and do those things, and over time it will work. It's just staying in the game and not abandoning it. That's the worst thing ever, is when, even personally, you invest in something, money, time, effort, and you just let it kind of slip away. So I don't, I, it's hard to watch people, that put all that effort into something and then kind of give up. But
Being the coach, if someone ignores your advice, can you usually predict how it goes?
sure, yeah. I mean, it's that's why I like to take our sales calls, because I can usually size people up fairly quickly. How is their mindset? How are they coming in already thinking? Are they already, kind of negative? What's their history with any type of other coaching programs? And I'll try to be straight up with people and say, look, I don't know that this is the right fit for you, or to have success, you're going to have to do A, B, and C. But yes, I mean, it, you can be surprised for sure when you give a recommendation and somebody doesn't follow it and it works out okay. I'm not saying that can't happen, but there's a lot of experience between my wife and I over these 10 years, and hundreds of deals, many markets that we've been in. We kind of know the ropes. And so you can, especially when you're new, like, I like to tell our new clients, your first deal or your first few deals are for learning, not earning. And so don't go for a home run. Don't try to, just case in point. We send out offers. That's one of the first big milestones. Get offers out into the wild. That can be physical mail, it can be text messages, it can be phone calls, it can be with an actual number like, Lewis, I want to offer you $10,000 for your property. Call me back. And so I like to tell people that just what I was talking about at the beginning of the show. I can send somebody an offer of $1 and maybe out of 10,000 offers, I'll get somebody to respond. I don't know. And that response is likely not going to be a great one, but some people are open to negotiate. They might say, "Hey, I got your offer. Did you make a mistake? I'm willing to do this."
Missed a few
And so,
zeros.
yeah, exactly. Typically, with new clients, I'm like, "Look, these first deals are more about learning than earning. You can still double your money. That's not a problem. But don't try to get super greedy in sending out your first offers. Send out an offer of 50 or 60. Just make a little, go through the process, learn the steps. The worst thing in the world is to send out a batch of big offers and get nothing back. Then it's like it's disheartening. And so I'm like, just put something out there, get some money, make some money, learn the processes, and then start iterating. And so that's kind of, I would say, one of the biggest challenges is just setting the mindset of let's learn the process, let's have some successes, build on the wins, then go get some home runs and, get things out there.
I love it. Learning before earning. I actually had a previous
Yeah.
podcast guest. He actually develops land and luxury homes, $50
Okay.
million homes.
Yeah.
So his first deal ever, he lost money on. So I mean, it's exactly what you said, right? You got to learn before you earn. And now, he's doing pretty well over in the Miami area. So let's talk a little bit AI. This is the AI Edge podcast, right? So I know that you're clearly ahead with AI, which is awesome. You have found yourself trusting it more or questioning it more, right, over the last year. So where does human judgment still beat AI every time?
Probably almost everywhere, honestly. In the world of coaching, it really, I would say this is an area where I have, over the last few weeks and months, I've been trying to leverage AI more in an effort to maybe scale my ability to respond and coach to clients. And so I'm trying to set up a system or a project or whatever you want to call it, depending on your AI, that has enough of my decision making like we were talking about at the beginning. I'm in some coaching programs where they have a coach, brain. But I would say there's still so much nuance with people. I have clients that are go getters that take feedback and run with it. I have clients that are a little more timid and need one step at a time type instructions. Oh, and so I think I am able to deduce and perceive that based on my interactions with people. And AI doesn't necessarily do that. You could, I'm assuming, train it to pick up on cues, whether through writing or whatever. But that's an area where to date, I still personally craft a lot of my communications in the written format. Like obviously I'm having video calls with people and giving coaching feedback, but that's an area where I find AI deficient in terms of that. Speaking at a language that I think the client's gonna receive better. I just mentioned a couple clients. I have like a really statistically minded, heavy data centered person that understands things at a different level. I can talk statistics with him. I can talk different things. I have other clients who've never opened a spreadsheet and they're like, I don't know how to do this. And so I have to really work to speak their language to get them to perform at a higher level. That I would say that's the biggest area. If you'd asked me this maybe 2 or 3 months ago, which I mean AI is incredible. It just the improvements over time that things are happening. But there was a time 2 or 3 months ago where data analytics I felt were not a strong suit of many of these AI tools. Now I use Claude in Excel and it can do powerful things like, it can look at a whole file and kind of interpret and pull things out. And so it's gotten a lot better. But even there's still nuance that I understand that it doesn't necessarily come across. For instance, in like land, when I'm analyzing sales data, a common situation I find is if somebody owns 2 or more properties, they may have they may have purchased 10 properties for $100,000. And so the county records many times will record each of those 10 properties all at 100,000 each. And so that just skews the numbers if you don't understand that, and it can really pollute. And so there's a cleanliness in data analytics that needs to happen. And so I can many times look at that and go, "Oh wow, that's like a really big outlier. What's going on?" And then I can figure out what's going on. The flip side is AI can also determine different categories of things and find duplicates or find errors in the data. And so it's a good collaborative effort, but I'm not comfortable enough to just let it run and go because there's a few categories of things that I can understand just because of my experience in working with it. It's also why I have a whole AI course in our land coaching program on AI tools from start to finish. Every module I typically start with a don't surrender your intelligence to AI. Like also, like when we went through school, you're probably maybe not as old as I am, but like there's this whole concept of learning long division before you learned the shortcuts or were able to use a calculator. It's kind of the same thing. Learn the process so that you understand it enough to know if AI is giving you BS or appropriate answers. I mean, otherwise you're just at the mercy of a tool that may or may not be accurate. And so you really got to learn the fundamentals. And that's our coaching program teaches the fundamentals, but also how to use the tools, but take the time to understand the fundamentals. Otherwise, you can make some big mistakes.
Mike, where has AI generally exceeded your expectations?
Gosh, one of the areas in our business is in market research or any kind of research. It can just go out and amass massive amounts of information. That's a double-edged sword. I mean, I like to use the deeper levels of research in these AIs so that they're not just grabbing like surface level internet search type feedback, but they can go into counties, they can go into different departments in counties, find documents, datas. They can go into research reports and kind of compile all that very quickly, find the trends and the patterns. It's amazing to be able to go do things that Ligia and I used to spend a lot of time navigating, fishing around. Maybe you don't even find what you're looking for. And so the speed with which we can just pull data together and find, typically that's around markets and market research, but it's really across the board. Creative financing solutions, lenders, vendors. I mean, it can do a lot of that information and work. I would say that's an area where I've just totally embraced the power of AI. Other things, they're kind of meh, like content creation or marketing documents. It's good, but it's that I would say is the mainstream use of AI these days is a lot of publishing.
Have you ever had an AI completely change the way you make business decisions?
That's a great question. Nothing comes to mind immediately, but yeah, I don't think anything has really fundamentally changed in our business decisions in that way. I like to leverage AI for a bit of coaching advice. Like you can grab, Tony Robbins or some of the great coaches out there, or business coaches, or different things, and it can help give you perspective on that. There are some good prompts that I've used. Once you use an AI, obviously it gets a memory and an understanding, and it can analyze how you even work. And so you can ask AI to give you blind spot information, or how can I improve in my own efficiency and personal development and things like that. And so those get into the kind of a tangential space of making business decisions, but like discrete business decisions, has it steered me away from a market or into a market? Probably, but the process of going through all that, I would have likely come to, yeah, I just get there faster. And yeah, but fundamental business changes, I can't think of anything top of mind.
If Claude disappeared tomorrow, what would hurt the most?
Man, I've thought about that actually.
I'd be in trouble.
Because yeah, I mean, I have started to really become a partner with Claude, especially. Yeah, no, the heaviest things I use it for today in terms of like volume of work is really marketing. So ideation for we're looking at a certain client psyche, right? An avatar or an ideal client profile or whatever your terminology is for it. And so what are their fears? What are their Claude or any AI can go out and look at Reddit forums or different groups and understand what are the common questions coming out there? What are the things people are looking for? And so we use that to help shape our marketing information. What kind of posts are we making? Video scripting, all of that stuff. Even, today, Claude has scheduled tasks that you can do. It all these MCPs connect to almost everything. And so, Claude publishes my newsletters to Kit and in a draft format. I can't quite publish them yet, but then I go in, review it, tweak it, make a schedule. Same thing for LinkedIn posts. I have a post scheduler and it can connect with that and draft a bunch of posts. Yeah, I mean all these things are tasks that give me time back to do coaching or to do business strategy or things like that. And if I would say those would suffer the most if Cloud were to disappear, just because I have so many automations currently running in the background.
Let's talk a little bit about, you mentioned your biggest bottleneck isn't fulfillment, it's creating predictable coaching demand. Why do you think that it's harder than building the land business?
Well, it's likely a function of my expertise. I have 10 years in running the land business. It's a simple business model. We're finding markets, evaluating what an offer should be, sending those out, and doing the deals. In the land business, our bottleneck is capital. It's just we can get deals coming in, and it's finding creative capital solutions to take those deals and flip them and do them. And that's probably the one thing that's limited our growth. For me personally in the coaching business, it's just generating leads and getting things out there. And that's really more of a function of my inexperience with this type of business and this type of marketing. I'm not leveraging resources heavily at the moment. I have used marketing agencies, I've used people, different tools. I just haven't found one that I like fully. But that's that at this state and time in that business, that's the bottleneck. It's not really any any commentary on the state of AI or systems or the capability of the industry at large. It's just my time in the business or lack of it and finding the right resource, whether that's a person or a system or a combo.
Is it awareness, trust, or just simply attention?
A little bit of attention, more trust, I would say. I've had, like I said, I've tried a few different things and they just haven't delivered at the level that I've wanted it to or expected it. And so I'm still testing different solutions. And then there's typically, you engage with something or someone for a period of time, evaluate the performance. And if it doesn't work, then there might be a kind of a reflective period where it's a lot of work to vet vendors, to vet systems, to invest in one, get it set up. And it's always a little bit of a business case, whether you cut or you try to improve. And yeah, just haven't found the formula just yet. And, part of it's shiny new object syndrome. There's so many tools and systems and methodologies out there, it feels like. And then there's all these channels, right? YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, different things. And so it's just that to your point is maybe more the focus side of the equation, being able to
Operations wise, if tomorrow your calendar filled with discovery calls, what would break first?
me would be I would probably be leaning more towards a sales assistant at that point. Like, I have gone through periods like that where I've had a full calendar of calls. And that comes with its own set of challenges, no shows, poorly vetted applicants that aren't really appropriate, the sales conversation, the follow ups, all the stuff there. And so, in land, I understand the business and we know how to scale it at a very, like if you think about an end to end process, you bring it all up without taking it too far out of balance. The scenario that you described would take our business way out of balance, right? You'd have a bottleneck at sales calls, and then it would be follow-ups, and then it would be client onboarding, and then it would be the execution of things, just kind of this bubble going through the process. And that's part of a little bit of what holds me back. to some degree. But yeah, that would, it's a double-edged sword. It's a welcome thing to have so many leads coming in, but you'd have to start thinking about, is there a different process to convert leads
Sure.
into sales?
Sure. You talked during our pre-call, you mentioned wanting like an AI COO dashboard, right? Describe your perfect Monday morning. What would that dashboard tell you?
It would tell me big revenue that's been collected over the weekend. Yeah, I have been working on this a little bit. So I would like, honestly, and what I'm working on is having, we have annual and quarterly goals driven down into weekly and or monthly and weekly execution plans. And so my wife and I, since we've started our business, we start Monday mornings with a team meeting and we talk about the week ahead and we talk about where we are in relation to our goals and what any course corrections that we need to be doing. What is the plan for the week? What appointments, what time blocks do we need to schedule things? But that's where I would like a strong operations officer to come and say, okay, Mike, this needs your attention this week.
Mm,
You have certain things blocked in your calendar. Great. Here's what needs your attention. These are prioritized items. You need to, onboard certain clients, prep for certain sales calls, as much as possible, handed to me on Monday morning so that I start the week with a macro level understanding of where I am in both businesses and what I need to focus on this week in a prioritized manner so that I can knock those out. And then, that's what I would expect a human operations officer to do. Also, hey, these are the top things for your attention. I've already handled these four. These I actually need you to help me with, kind of a thing. So some level of empowerment to knock the things out that it can knock out. But that's where I'd like to start Sunday night or Monday morning or whatever, hitting the ground running and having a clear roadmap in front of you.
that'd be amazing. We're still talking AI. If AI could only answer 3 questions every morning, what would they be?
What are the most pressing tasks? Even the one thing that if, like, I don't know if you're familiar with the book or the concept,
That's a
but,
great book. I
you
love
know,
that book.
yeah. And so what is that one thing for me today that I need to make sure gets done? If I were thinking through other types of questions, it might be, what's the next biggest return on focus of my time? And potentially what, is a something more long term that I need to make sure keeps getting moved. What it's also a question of focus and priority, but there's kind of two levels, one being today urgent and then the other being maybe not as urgent, but
Sure.
necessary.
Let's talk a little bit about the future. Where do you see your business in 12 months, whether it be the flipping dirt, which is the coaching business, or your land development business, or your land acquisition business?
Yeah, our land business, it's just growth patterns. We talk every year, Ligia and I do, about do we want to do value add projects, entitlements, subdividing. It's also a question of time and focus, but there's growth that's going to happen there. It's largely probably in our same business model just because it is incredibly time efficient. We just, for the amount of time that we invest in that business, we get big returns. So that prevents us from going into any other models that are just going to be time intensive. And so, that side of the business will grow 12 months. We typically are 50% or better growth each year just through scale. The coaching side of business, I'd love to 10x. I mean, it's young, it's inconsistent in terms of I would just like a steadier pipeline all across the board. 12 months from now, I would like to be doing things a lot more efficiently in terms of my delivery of services. So, group interactions, even no touch products and services. I'm envisioning AI can be a big part of the coaching experience in terms of repeatedly asked questions, check-ins, evaluation of certain things. That's where I think I can be leveraged to offload some things that I do today where, somebody will email me a list of, I was just talking to Ligia yesterday about this. Somebody emailed me a list of analysis that they've done, and it's not really efficient for me to then open their workbook, try to figure out what they've done, how have they structured things, does it make sense, is the number right? I mean, it just takes a lot of time to do that effectively. AI can do it and help to some degree, but yeah, things like that are where I'd like to grow the business, but in a very efficient manner that's not 10x of my time, but you know maybe same amount of time, but 10x the revenue.
Do you buy just raw land in your land business, or do you ever have a structure on that land? The reason I ask is the gentleman who does develop luxury homes, they'll buy a home for two, $3 million,
Mm,
tear it down because of the land is
yeah,
on water, and then
right.
build, a $20 million home or whatever.
We don't in that level of intention. We have bought properties with structures on them, but they've been just broken down or neglected or even a surprise sometimes. It's not like we're targeting in major metro areas. This is not too uncommon. Like I'm from the Dallas Fort Worth area. There are some wealthy pockets of old neighborhoods, and that same tear down approach will happen, right? People will buy a property knowing that they can put a 20, 30, 40, $50 million home on it. And so it's worth it for them just to buy it, tear down the structure and do it. It's not a strategic approach of ours. It's a great, opportunity. But the way we have our business structured is from start to finish, we're kind of keying on vacant land, undeveloped. And so anything that comes into our funnel or our worldview comes from that lens. We're not targeting I valued land, whether it has a structure on it or not. It's probably a great approach. I can imagine it's super competitive in terms of landing that actual deal because there's many factors that come into play. Your friend being a developer already knows he's his own buyer, right? If he gets the land, he knows what he's going to do with it and have all that. But it's a great strategy in the land business for vacant land to have someone like your friend or your acquaintance that is a developer and you know what they're looking for, and when you find that, you have a buyer lined up, you generally know about what they're going to pay, and so as long as you're leaving some margin in there for you, it's a great way. We A lot of our clients that don't have budgets, there are ways to run the business like that where you're arbitraging different deal, or you're just I don't want to say I don't want to say brokering because that's kind of a gray zone. Like you don't have a broker's license, but there are people that kind of connect buyers and sellers. And maybe we'll take an assignment fee or a commission or something, just like there is in the house flipping business where you can assign contracts to developers. It's a good low budget or even no budget way to get started in land. But yeah, it's a. I mean, that's the end of the wealth spectrum to be trafficking in, just because there's so much wealth there.
When I was in wholesaling, that's when I started off in real
Okay.
estate. We all do it at some point, right? Whether it be wholesaling or flipping houses or
Right.
somewhat residential. Well, we used to reverse engineer it. We used to
Mhm.
figure out, can we find the buyer first, right? Once we found the buyer, we knew what he was looking for. We then try to acquire what they were looking for at a lower price,
Exactly.
sell it to them.
We have a good segment of our business that we do a similar thing. I mean, just because 'cause we've been in certain markets for a long time from developer we've sold a lot of acreage to a suburb of Denver that has a reservoir project out, and they're looking in a particular region that they know they're gonna build a reservoir, and so we kind of were early we were in early on that,
Nice.
knowing about that project, and so, we're able to work the region, and whenever we find a deal, it's great. We know we have a guaranteed buyer. They're paying premium for those properties. It's typically a no hassle transaction because they're covering closing costs and they have all the stuff set up, and so we just have to find the deal, and if we can secure it for less than they're willing to pay for it, then it's a green light.
I would imagine it would have to be developable also, right? Because being in Colorado, there's a lot of mountains, a lot of hills where you really
Mhm.
can't develop on certain types of land topography. Is that playing the fact also in your land business?
It does. We don't stay in Colorado exclusively, but we probably do 80% of our land in Colorado just because we like it, we love it. Early days, that was a heavy factor for us. These days, we have never not sold a property, and we have bought some cliffside properties, and there we say there's a kind of a saying, there's a pig for every barn. There's a buyer for every piece of land out there, whether it's a swamp and there's an ATV lover out there that wants to ride in mud, or we live here in the mountains and our property is really sloped and it's beautiful. We have like unobstructed views over pine trees. And, and so there's a way to frame it in such a way. And if you want to build homes, you can build homes or whatever. If you've ever seen like these cliffside
Yeah, on stilts.
people sleep in a thing, cocoon or
Right.
something. I don't know. There's people that get creative about all kinds of things. And so now our biggest regret in our land business is like we passed over many, many deals because we were really super picky about whatever has a crack on it. Or it's like just, if you buy it for the right price, somebody's going to buy it.
Let's have a little bit of fun here, Mike. Lightning round, some quick hits. You ready?
Bring it on.
Biggest myth about land investing.
Takes money.
Best investment you ever made that wasn't real estate.
Education. Sure.
What's one operational habit every entrepreneur should steal?
Gosh, cash flow. Make sure you're looking at your income and outgo and keeping your eye on the cash flow.
What's something you changed your mind about over the last 5 years?
It's been a bit longer than 5 years, but I would say job security. I was a big believer in the salary and the benefits and all of the things, and that entrepreneurship was the risky venture, and now I don't know that I could go back very easily to a salaried job. I have so much more control over my time, my location, and my income, especially these days. I mean, there is nothing you can't do, with a computer and a power source.
What business are you studying right now that's outside of real estate?
I'm leaning heavily into AI. It's a wave that's here. The window closes soon, I would imagine, in terms of the gold rush and doing things. But I am looking at not only inside real estate because it's powerful and it's a domain that I know, but also how to leverage it more in any business. But that's probably most prominent.
Last one, Mike. What are you personally trying to improve this year?
My biggest personal growth area, it's in the business domain, but it's a personal thing, is just overcoming fear, taking starting new ventures, taking a leap, letting go of the outcome, being a little more courageous in terms of trying new business ideas, or things like that.
Excellent. Mike, this is a great conversation for those listening that want to learn more about your business and your coaching business and your WIM business. Where is the best place to find you?
Well, I would say I'm very active on LinkedIn. Michael B. Deaton is my handle there. I publish daily land and non land topics. I'm becoming more active on Instagram. And so if anybody's interested in land and wants, just DM me on Instagram. I have some AI resources in the land world that I'd be happy to share or anything else. But those are probably my two most active. Flippingdirt.us is another great website. If you go to flippingdirt.us/freedom, I've kind of made it a podcast landing page where you can grab informational insights. You can join our newsletter. My contact information's there. So that's another good on ramp into my world.
Love it. Mike, this has been a great conversation. I appreciate you sharing all the information about flipping dirt, your coaching business, your land business. It's been super helpful for all those listening that want to join Mike in his journey and his coaching. Make sure you like, follow, and share. And make sure you check Mike out on his websites and his links. And we'll see you on the next episode of the AI Edge podcast. Mike, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for being here.
Yeah. Thanks for hosting me, Lewis. It was fun.